the 12 with you.
You will listen to the magical Stormingle podcast from the world of the Dark Eye. Here are tips and tricks for old and new adventures, GM aids, adventure ideas, and much more. Stay tuned, because it's going to be adventurous.
Episode 1, Prologue, the Storm Angle Podcast.
So, getting into a new hobby, it can be a little overwhelming sometimes, right? Especially when it's something like the Dark Eye RPG.
It definitely has a lot to unpack, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we've got this description here for a podcast. It's called Storm Angle, and it's supposed to be the guide to this whole thing. So where do we even start?
Well, I think what's interesting right off the bat is how they describe the game itself. They kind of avoid directly comparing it to D&D.
Which you'd think would be the obvious move.
Right, it's like Dungeons & Dragons, BUT. But they don't. They lean into this whole Aventuria thing.
Aventuria, that's the setting, right?
Yeah, their own unique fantasy setting.
Yeah.
Launched back in '84. But the way they talk about it, it's like it's standing on its own 2 feet, Not just riding D&D's coattails.
And the thing that gets me is this. Over 5 million rulebooks sold. That's wild.
It's huge. Somewhere, that's for sure. 5 million?
That's not just a game anymore. That's a cultural phenomenon. Makes you wonder what you've been missing out on.
Exactly. 5 million rulebooks. That's generations of players sharing stories, building this whole world. It makes you curious.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, but real quick, before we get too deep, full disclosure here, we are not coming into this as the Dark Eye experts.
Yeah, this isn't us dropping our encyclopedic knowledge on you, no.
We're using Storm Angle as our guide here. It's our treasure map to the good stuff.
And what's kind of funny when you think about it is that the podcast itself is doing a deep dive.
So we're deep diving their deep dive.
It's exactly meta, right? But what makes it worth diving into is it's more than just a show, They bill it as a toolkit for playing the Dark Eye.
Okay, I like that. Because anybody can tell you how cool something is, right? But to actually give you the tools to experience it yourself, that's next level.
Absolutely. And they break it down into 3 main pillars, it seems. Adventure hooks, player and GM tips, and then more deep dives into DSA.
So they're really committed to this deep dive thing.
It's the name of the game.
All right, so let's break it down then. Adventure hooks, those are always fun. And it's not just vague ideas either, right?
Yeah, they seem to get that specificity is key.
One they mentioned involves hold on, let me find it. Here we go. A rediscovered artifact. But it comes with rivals who want it, and a ticking clock. I mean, come on, that's just begging for a campaign.
It's like they've given you all the ingredients, measured out perfectly, and you just have to turn on the stove, right?
Exactly. I can already see it now, The players huddled around the table, arguing about who gets to hold the artifact, who gets to use its power.
It spoke to me, you wouldn't understand.
Right. Clearly, I'm the chosen one. See, this is why I love RPGs.
Speaking of enhancing the gameplay, they also have this whole section on player and GM tips. And I think what's cool is that it's for both sides of the table. It's not just, hey, GMs, here's how to make your game better. It's about everyone having a good experience.
Which is huge, because let's be real, RPGs can go off the rails sometimes. The GM has this whole grand plan, and then the players decide to, join the villain's cult or something.
Oh, yeah, they mentioned that specifically. Helping GMs handle those curveball moments, what do you do when your carefully crafted BBA is suddenly the party's new best friend?
Been there. You're trying to be all dramatic, describing the epic battle ahead, and someone's like, can I offer him some tea first? And you're internally screaming, but also the show must go on, right?
Exactly. And that's where having some tools, some advice can really make a difference. It's the difference between feeling like you've lost control of your game and turning that unexpected turn of events into something memorable.
Embrace the chaos. Make it part of the story. Okay, so we've got adventure hooks, player and GM tips, and then there's the third pillar, the one where Storm Angle goes full meta on us.
The deep dives into DSA.
They're like, we heard you like deep dives, so we put a deep dive in your deep dive.
But really, it shows they're serious about this. It's not just surface level stuff. They're going deep into the lore, the mechanics, the whole shebang.
Which is what we're all about here on the deep dive, right? No fluff, just the good stuff.
Exactly. And what I noticed, even from just this description, is their emphasis on immersion. It's not just about reciting facts and figures. They're talking about music, props, setting the mood.
Creating an experience.
Exactly.
It's like, when you read a recipe for a dish and it sounds good, but then you actually smell it cooking and it's a whole other level. It's like they want to bottle that feeling that I'm actually in Aventuria feeling and share it with you.
And they tap into the history of the game, too, talking about Ulisses Spiele, the publisher.
Which is smart because it shows that this is a living, breathing thing, not just some relic of the past.
Yeah, it's still evolving, still growing. There's a whole community out there keeping it alive.
And that energy, that passion, it's contagious, isn't it? You can almost feel it radiating off of this description. It's like finding this hidden society, right? Not like some super secret thing, but like people who are so into this one thing, you can't help but get swept up in it. That's the feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Like stumbling into a room full of people who are geeking out about, I don't know, model trains.
Yeah.
But it's infectious. You're like, okay, what am I missing here?
Exactly. And that, I think, is what makes this storm angle thing so interesting. It's not just about the game. It's about the community.
It's about tapping into that shared passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for a listener who's maybe on the fence about diving into the dark eye, seeing that level of enthusiasm can be really compelling.
Oh, totally. Because at the end of the day, it arse about the stories, isn't it?
Always.
And if you're going to tell stories, why not do it with people who are like head over heels in love with the world you're playing in?
I think that's what makes this description work so well. It's not just, hey, listen to our podcast. It's like, come join us on this adventure.
An invitation to geek out, basically. And you know what? I'm kind of here for it. Because if this is just the description, right? Imagine what their actual episodes are like. The mind boggles.
I have a feeling they're packed with the same energy, the same attention to detail, the same love for the dark eye.
So there you have it. You wanted to know about the dark eye. We took a deep dive into this Storm Angle podcast description. And I gotta say, I think we came away with something even better than just information.
A feeling.
Yeah, like a sense of what this whole thing is really about. It's inspiring, almost. Makes you want to grab some dice and start rolling.
And isn't that the mark of a truly great deep dive? When it leaves you wanting to explore further to learn more.
100%. So, to our listener out there, if any of this resonated with you, the rich history, the passionate community, that sense of adventure, maybe give Storm Angle a listen. Who knows? You might just find your new gaming obsession. And hey, if you do, let us know. We always love hearing from our fellow deep divers. Until next time, happy gaming.